Now we're on. Oh,
Yes.
great.
So
Oh,
what is it that you want to talk about today? You
yes.
know, I always enjoy those conversations where we get to share
To be honest, I want to talk about pain,
about pain. Okay.
about making decision when it comes
Yes.
to the right moment. How do you, how do you measure the pain, and how do you, feel? I mean, how can you go through the pain? Because I think you
Of
don't need to
man.
to escape from the pain. And I want, because the things that came in my mind, because always when I'm talking to you and when I shut down the computer or the phone, then I'm starting to thinking exactly in the details what we talked about.
Hmm.
And you said, I remember that all the successful people, in which area doesn't matter, political, soccer players, actors, whatever, you know, they are so successful, you said to me, but they are going through pain every single day that we
Yeah.
don't see. We see just the result. For example, as an actor, we just see the movie from the act. We don't know what happens before them. And you
Yeah.
told me you don't need to escape from the pain. You need to go through and tell to yourself, in your inner self, what happened, what should I do, what did I do wrong. And I want to talk more in details about that. For example, also with the COVID, with our familiar situation, maybe, about my mother and, my father that are more, they have another age, and maybe they have another vision with this COVID, you know, about all those. I think maybe it's also a good time to talk about that.
So that's interesting. And I understand the question. So let me tell you something.
Yes.
First, I am a dad, a married person, which means that just being part of any family, you
Mm-hmm.
have your normal amount of pain you go through. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a dad, your mom, your son, brother,
Mm-hmm.
just the family dynamic, and especially when you are part of those making decision, like being a dad, the
Mm-hmm.
amount of responsibility that comes with that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's one thing. Second, I'm an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
which means there is the pain of pushing something into the market, figuring out how things work, and handling your mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's a second source of pain that you could say that I deal with. And third, I invest. I trade. I make investment decision both in private companies and in public companies in the market, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you go through pain there a lot about you know your mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and being on the wrong side of the market,
Mm-hmm.
or also even when you're on the right side of the market, how much pain can you endure, for example, when you invest in a company or when you have a position, before you actually change your mind or let what you think should happen play out, you know? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell you on those three levels, I don't want to get to another dimension that doesn't make sense for many people, because just the fact that you're alive and trying to make sense of the world can be another source of pain. But let's forget about that one that is more broad, and let's focus
Mm-hmm.
on those three that are
Yeah.
enough, in a human's life to deal with it.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, I went through so much pain that pushed me to a lot of understanding and research about
Mm-hmm.
what is what's the sense of going through pain.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and what comes to my mind is a sentence that I read from that was attributed to the Buddha, which
Mm-hmm.
says that pain is unavoidable,
Mm-hmm.
but suffering is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And and
And the thing is, suffering, should we choose to suffer or not? What could be the better result from us then, for us?
So it's like you cannot avoid pain.
Yes.
You cannot avoid pain.
Mm-hmm.
But when that pain comes, you have choices to make.
Mm.
Based on those choices, the pain can be transformed into something positive, or you stay with the pain and it becomes suffering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if you're suffering based on the Buddha,
Mm-hmm.
it's because you choose to suffer. Because it's because you don't let go or you don't change a decision that the pain is telling you that you should change.
Mm-hmm.
Am I making sense?
Absolutely, 100%.
So it took me some time to get to that point. It's like, okay, so pain is like a flashlight warning.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do something here. Okay? Pain is like
Mm-hmm.
a warning. You need to do something here. Then, if you use that warning to do or not do the change, then becomes the suffering or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the suffering is on you. Pain is life talking to you. Suffering is you with you.
But maybe, why? Because I think a lot of people would choose to suffer, and I think that maybe those people that choose to suffer, that's like the easiest way, because also changing, like change your habit, change your inner self, change the things that you did before, that could be also another pain, you know, because you know only those things how to go through, and if you are in pain and you need to change, maybe to have then a positive result, maybe that's also another pain to change. You know what I mean? For example, let's imagine that I have the company, I want to build this platform, and for whatever reason, all of a sudden, I'm not convinced anymore 100% with the company. And I have something other in my mind, for example, the stock market right now. And I said, okay, that's something more interesting. And I'm seeing that the stock market, it's something that I have more interest in building my platform. For a reason, I don't know. But at the same time, changing that your mind, that maybe through the pain, why your platform didn't work, whatever reason, and at the same time changing your mind that maybe your platform didn't work because maybe you're not able or you're not good enough or the market, and then make those change to do another thing, that's another pain because you lost your platform, you lost your be entrepreneur, the nightlife, and then all of a sudden you change another way and go, for example, right now through the market. And that comes, like your, I don't know how we can say, l'orgoglio.
It sounds like you're losing money in the stock market. Whenever you lose money in the stock market, bro, you think that you're the worst. I'm telling you. And when you make money, you think that you're a genius. But
Yeah.
but again, I get your point about what you're
Yes.
talking about. I mean, you cannot avoid the pain of recognizing your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what one of the thing about being an investor, either in private company or in the stock market, is you have to be okay with mistakes. There's no pride in this game. You understand? If you want pride, do not do. Because whenever you do, you measure. Through pain is how you learn. I'll tell you something. You mentioned something about being lazy, not wanting to do change. Okay, so the only reason you make a change is because the pain forced you to. Because otherwise, you don't have the energy for that. Your energy is going to stay where you are. When the pain comes, the pain is supposed to give you the energy to make the change. That's the role of pain from my point of view. Understand? When something is painful, what it's giving you is the energy so you can actually make the change that without pain, there's no incentive to do it.
Okay, so you think it needs the pain to make a change?
In life, you need, in the whole, let's be a little bit philosophical about it. You need energy to do things. You need energy. Me, pain is just one more source of energy. Now, it's not easy when you go through it. It's not easy. But the pain in my personal life, every painful situation I've been through, have given me the energy to go to the root cause of what brought me here, to that painful situation. From that root cause, how can I do something to avoid it in the future? And if it wasn't for the pain, why would I stop? You always think you're right. You always think that you see things better than everyone else. I don't know if everybody is like me, but at least for me, when I move, it's because I trust my judgment. And the way I know I was wrong is because something painful happened. And when that painful happens, it forces you to revise. And when you do revise because that painful situation is unbearable, you want out of it, then you need to use that energy. At least I've learned to use that energy to do very deep changes. You can never avoid pain because life is a struggle that comes with pain. You cannot avoid pain. Now, suffering is something different. Suffering is being in a situation where you have no way out and you stay in it. That's a choice. But pain is unavoidable. You know, that's what I understood from that sentence of the Buddha.
When did you understand this quote from the Buddha?
I saw that quote in 2013. I remember exactly. I was going to a jiu-jitsu class for the first time. They say a guy that was very good at jiu-jitsu. I went to his class. And I was going to a very painful situation in my life. You know, I had some business partners I wanted to change, but I was afraid of changing. You know, I was afraid of moving, and I was having nightmares. But I always do some martial arts and things like that. And I went to this place and I said, and he had written, pain is unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. And I say, who said that? He said, the Buddha. And then I spent some time trying to understand what the Buddha meant by that. Of course, you can imagine, 6 months later, I left my partnership at the trading company where I was a partner and start working on other things that were that I wanted to do, you know, and I didn't know if they made sense to do them from an economical point of view or not, but those were the questions I wanted to attack.
You said that we cannot escape from pain, and that every person is going through pain, you know. Then to suffer, it's your choice, you know, to suffer or to make a change, right?
Yeah.
When is the thing that I want to understand personally, when is the point that you say, okay, I need to make this change?
I need to make the change. Exactly. And I think that's personal. Let's say you're going in one direction.
Yes.
You hit a brick wall. And that wall is pushing you back. It's creating some pain. You can continue pushing. You get to a breaking point where you cannot tolerate the pain anymore. And then that's when you say, you know what? I need to do something about it. I think everybody has their breaking point of pain. Now, what is suffering? Suffering is I stay with the pain so long that I think it's normal, and it becomes part of my life until it breaks you out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think every painful situation or every crisis, which
Mm-hmm.
is again a painful situation, is where you find the energy to actually say, you know what, maybe there's something different that I need to look at to make that pain stop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the stock market? I'll tell you something. Usually, if you make a bad investment in the stock market,
Yeah.
you lose money. Most
Mm-hmm.
likely, your next decision will do something stupid to add more pain. Okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I've seen it so many times and learn about it. It's a known behavior. That's why you try to build algorithms that avoid
Mm-hmm.
those type of behavior. Because what is the pain of making a bad investment? It's the pain of recognizing that I made a mistake. Now,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to make a mistake, you think you
Mm-hmm.
cannot make a mistake. What you would do another decision, another investment
Mm-hmm.
with the same bad reasoning, just to prove that you were right, and you will
Mm-hmm.
lose money again.
Okay.
Because the pain you're going through is the pain of recognizing I didn't know what I was doing, or my reading of the situation was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you pause and you try to go to the process, what did I do wrong? Why did I lose money? What can I learn?
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Oh,
painful process.
but the thing is, I'm just starting right now with market, and I'm really at the very beginning. The thing is, I mean, you cannot be 100% sure in the stock market.
I'll tell you something. You can never be 100% sure, but I can assure you, do not
Uh-huh.
short. Don't go short. It's worse.
Short means when it's a bearish market, right?
Exactly. You know
Okay.
why? Because
No.
the way market works,
Mm-hmm.
you have central banks,
Yes.
governments,
Mm-hmm.
and the CEOs and the investment bankers, all of them pushing and doing propaganda and giving money for things to go up.
Yes, but all of a sudden they will go down. Maybe.
Yes, but when you look at things go down, things go up 20 years, they go down 6 months. So from a probability point of view, you have to be really, 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 really sure when you want to bet on the downside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the
Mm-hmm.
whole system is built to avoid crisis, because everybody wants things to push up.
A bullish market, right?
Exactly. Now, there are situations where those forces cannot continue, but they're usually limited in time.
Like, for example, from March till August, maybe.
Exactly. And nothing said that we're not heading towards something, another crash or not. You cannot really anticipate those things, because if you ask me, the conditions are there for a very big crash. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Why? If
Of course I can tell you, because we are at a very point where all the companies have too much debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Most companies have too much debt. And because they have too much debt, the only reason they were able to function is because they were allowed to keep taking more debt very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And then use debt to pay debt. You understand? They use debt to
Like
pay
Oracle.
debt. They use exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you call that. It depends who you talk to, but it seems if you do it in a company, it's legal. But if you do it from Madoff, it's a Ponzi scheme. Madoff was using people's money to pay other people.
That's But maybe that's not the part right now. We can discuss it another time.
But I'm trying to explain.
But that's right, because people losing jobs, companies are going to close, and the market's going up and very quickly.
No. Let's go clear about why market going up. This is not. What I'm explaining is not why the market is going up. The market is going up for another reason. I'm explaining why the market may go down. The reason the market may go down is because we have a bunch of, the whole system is over leveraged.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much debt that can be sustained. And what COVID did was put a lot of companies in problem with cash flows, or put the whole economy problem with cash flow, because those companies were using debt to pay debt.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason they were able to do that is because they were able to show that they have at least a very little small cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So when that cash flow goes down, all the debt triggers that you need to pay that debt that you cannot pay, and then you have a solvency problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So this is still pending. This is still something that can happen,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean it will happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay?
But you never know that, right?
Sorry?
You will never know that exactly if it will happen or not.
This has been the case since 2018. That is pretty clear that we're close to a collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fed understood that when they were trying to raise interest rate, and then they realized they were raising it too fast,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to start going slower since the Q4 of 2018. But again, the conditions are there
Mm-hmm.
for a very sharp decline, but that doesn't mean it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now what you have is something that never happened before, is all the central bankers
Mm-hmm.
and all government
Mm-hmm.
understanding that this is a pandemic, this is something really big that we need to deal with, and
Mm-hmm.
willing to put a lot of money behind markets.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay.
So because they're putting a lot of money behind markets,
Mm-hmm.
fiat currency is losing value. I mean, the dollar is losing value, and the dollar is losing value faster than the other currencies, but all the currencies in the world are losing value against hard asset, against gold, against silver, even against Bitcoin, against stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And stocks are going up because they have to reflect, because stocks are denominated in dollars. If the dollar is worth less, so the stock has to be worth more. The same way gold is going up, the same way precious metal, the same way Bitcoin is going up. It's like what you have right now is more explained by currency losing value.
Mm-hmm. And stock market gaining value.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So everything that is denominated in currency up. This is called inflation.
Inflation, yeah.
Okay? But the thing is, right now, in the short term, the biggest risk is still deflation. It's not inflation yet.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest risk is you get into a collapse. You get into what's happening right now. People are scared. They're not spending as freely as they used to. People are hoarding their cash. They're afraid. Household people like you, like me, we spend less. I do spend less. You pay your credit card. You do a bunch of things just because you don't know what's going to happen. So that generates a risk in the economy of deflation.
Exactly, because the products are there, but the people do not spend money.
Exactly. So because that is the major risk, okay? Because that is the major risk. So what are central bankers supposed to do? They're supposed to throw money to incentivize you to spend, to say everything is going to be okay. Look, the stock market is going up. Go and spend money. Because if they don't do that, what you have is a deflation, and you have a bigger crisis coming. So that's why I think they will keep doing whatever they can and should to keep, us, the whole global economy, to pass that very hard time we're going through. Now, one of the consequences of that, it's reflected in asset price going up. Because you put so much money that the money loses value against hard assets.
No.
But if we have a problem right now, is that they're not putting enough money. It depends who you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people are saying, no, we should. I mean, I fall into the pragmatism
Mm-hmm.
part. I think it's pragmatism. Maybe it's not pragmatism, but it's like, you know, you need to keep the machine going. You need to keep the machine going because there are bigger consequences. I understand asset bubble is an issue,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you know it's a bubble yet?
So what do you mean when you say you need to keep the machine going? I mean, exactly.
You need to keep giving people who didn't have a job, you need to keep putting money in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be buying bonds to keep interest rate low because there is a difference between real interest rate and nominal interest rate. Okay. So when you have deflation,
Mm-hmm.
when the economy is going down,
Mm-hmm.
like in Europe, interest rates are negative
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because people actually they hoard money so much that you don't want money anymore. Money becomes negative. There's no value to money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look at Europe, there's most people that have money, they're not investing. They're holding to their cash. They don't know what
because they're afraid.
Exactly. So when that happens, money goes up in quantity, so it has value. Because
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of money has less value, so interest rate goes negative. Because I have to put negative interest rate to tell you, take your money. I don't want it. Because if you give it to me, I don't have opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You solve that is very difficult in the economy. Japan went 30 years before, and they're still, tough to solve that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people do not want to use the money, they don't want to take risk. You have deflation. It's pretty hard to get out of deflation. So how do you solve deflation? You solve deflation by generating an inflation.
Mm-hmm. That's something to also give the people security, that you can invest money, right?
There you go. So it's a very complicated balance because most of the time people do not spend money, not because they don't have money. That's one condition. The second condition, because they don't have trust in the system.
Exactly. The uncertainty, right?
Exactly. Uncertainty. So you need to solve those two things. But the way you solve uncertainty is because things have been good for so long that the mind start trusting again.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you do that is by putting so much money in the system that the stock market goes up for 1.5 years, then trusting again.
Exactly, because if they see that the market is going up and then after 2 months maybe it's going down again, they say, wait a minute.
There's a problem.
That's a problem because maybe if I invest my money in 3 months will happen the same what happened now.
So this is the dilemma of decision makers. They need to keep things going up because you have pandemic, which is it generates a fear so big that you have give people something incentive so they can start saying, you know what, let me take some risk. Because otherwise what you will have is a downward spiral of a deflationary crisis that is really tough to get out of. Okay,
but also, right, like keep the machine going would be also pain. We were talking about pain at the beginning. That could be also a pain, maybe. I don't know what
there is pain on both sides. There is pain on both sides because there is the short-term pain, the long-term pain. The short-term pain right now is if this pandemia, we let it win from an economical point of view, we don't know how countries will handle it. People out of jobs. You need to provide a safety net. You cannot say, oh, let it work by itself, which is some people think so. They say, you know what? We need to go through that pain, let it work by itself.
And that would be everything okay.
I don't think so.
Why?
Because this is really deep. Some people say it's unavoidable. Okay, but as a decision maker, it's like, as a decision maker, you need to do whatever you can do to make the pain the least as possible. Because there is some pain you go through, you may not come back. And as a decision maker, you cannot take that risk. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, we can all argue, how did we get to that point?
Mhm.
Because we made a bunch of mistakes before, but it's not the time to solve them right now, because right now you need to attend the crisis. When you solve the crisis, then will come another thing you need to afford to confront is, how did we get there? Can we change it? Which I don't think we will. I don't think we will. Okay?
Mhm.
I
Like in
just think,
2008, you know,
sorry?
like in 2008 with, you know, with the real estate and mortgages and everything, and then all of a sudden 2 years later was still the same, you know.
Well, but this is deeper than 2008. 2008, you had one asset class bubble,
Mhm.
which was real estate bubble. And because of all those asset classes were in banks' balance sheet and the financial system, it ended up being a financial crisis that then affect the economy.
Mhm.
But it was a very specific issue. It was an asset bubble in real estate in the United States.
And you think this one is more broad, like worldwide?
This is a global crisis of all. This is not, and this didn't start as some guy speculating on the stock on real estate. This is, you have a virus that creates two things: fear in the mind of people
Mm-hmm.
and economic lockdown. So fear in the mind of people that they're not spending.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
that's well.
And then you have economic lockdown that creates no income for companies and people losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's global. It's not in one country. It's global. And there are certain companies that suffer more, and some companies benefit from that. But even the companies that do benefit from them,
Mm-hmm.
like the software company, the working from home type of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I still think they will get affected if the whole global economy goes down. Their price will get affected somehow.
Also
So
down. Mm-hmm.
exactly, because they have some slowdown that will show up. Now they're okay, but let's not go there. That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, you cannot say as a policymaker, let this thing solve itself by itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, every time you give money to the system, you're creating a problem, because you will have to, at some point, to rebalance that money in the future. Maybe with higher taxes, maybe with so many other things. That's another
right?
that's another thing we'll have to deal with. But at that present moment, you cannot say, oh, let me see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Because something might happen that you cannot come back from it.
Very, very, very big.
So what does that mean? Everybody wants market to go up.
And they are putting money. They're there. Okay.
You understand? I mean, if the cost is printing money. So hard assets, stocks, some stocks, not all of them, will benefit from that in the long term.
I mean, you said something very interesting before, how we start the conversation for the stock market. Like, that when you do a mistake, maybe you will make another decision and it will be the same mistake.
That's what we do.
And you said that you were like, working on algorithms.
Yes.
To avoid the second mistake.
Exactly.
Right? So if I can ask you, if it's not like too deep, how would you solve this problem to not to make the second mistake?
But you have to be more specific. Are you talking about trading? Are you talking about, what are you talking about?
About trading, for example. Yes, about trading.
Okay. So I'll give you the typical mistake I make.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The typical mistake you make is, you make an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very simple ones.
Mm-hmm.
You understand why a certain thing is cheap or why a certain thing is expensive. So you may bet that it's going up or it's going down.
Mm-hmm.
But then, just because you see it doesn't mean everybody sees it. It doesn't mean you're right. Mm-hmm. So you may think something is going up, you buy it, and then you stay too long with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? Stay so long that you lost a bunch of money, and at some point you should have said, you know what, I need to go out. This doesn't make sense. Or the other thing you can do, which is pretty smart as a solution, is you put a certain amount of money that if you lose it, you still can make another bet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a solution.
Okay.
Another solution is, at some point, you get an exit. So this is going against me. At some point, I need to go out. That's another solution.
So, and the algorithm will help you find out when to go out,
One
right?
or two. I mean, because the thing is, when you're really convinced about something, you say, this is so clear, let me put all my money in it. And once you put all your money in it, if it's going against you, you don't want to change because you say, no, I am right. I am right. So you have, if you're building an algorithm, you may say, you know what? I'm talking about very basic things. Okay. It's okay. I make that bet. If it's not working at some point, I'm out. Or how much could I bet that even if I lose, I still can bet another bet? So those things, you could solve them yourself. But if you're building a whole portfolio, you can have automation help you make those decisions at a large scale instead of doing them one by one. But you can do them as a trader. You know what? I have $100. Okay, let me $5. If I lose, I'm okay. I can bet another time. Because if I bet $5, when I win, I make 15. When I lose 5. You can bet 3 times.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
But that's not what we do. Usually what we do is, if you don't know about this trick, okay, no, this is right. I put $100. Losing 50, you don't want to change. You say, I'll put 50 more. You take money somewhere else to put more. But you still make the same mistake. Because you need a reason to get in, you need a reason to get out, and those two reasons have to be very specific. Because if you don't know why you get in, you cannot know
why to get out.
No, you cannot know, you cannot test it. Okay?
So there's always a why behind.
You need to know why you get in. But again, the thing about stock market, about financial markets, is you need to know what you're betting on. Are you betting on valuation, or are you betting on movement? I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Let's say I'm in a bubble. I'm not saying we're in a bubble right now. I'm just saying, let's say I think I'm in a and the price of the stock is at 100. Okay? And I know I'm in a bubble. So what should I do? Should I buy at 100 or should I sell? Should I short? Should I bet that it's going up or should I bet that it's going down? And here goes the thing. If I'm a value investor, that means I look at balance sheet to understand what's going on. I may say $100 is expensive, so I need to be betting it's going down. But in a bubble, it's going to 500. You'll lose money. Now, if I'm in a movement, I'll bet it go from 100 to 500, even if valuation doesn't say so.
Okay. So there's those two type of things to measure.
So you need to know why you get in and why you get out. Are you based on valuation? Are you based on stock market movement? And how do you know that your signals make sense? The signal is the reason you get in or the reason you get out. And pain is part of that process. You cannot avoid pain. Like I was saying, as an investor, pain is part of understanding that process. You know?
Yes.
It's pain of making mistakes that you have to revise. You know what? I didn't get in for the reason. I didn't get out for the right reason.
Wow. Okay.
But what I'm saying is, finish with it, is like, pain is unavoidable, but suffering is a choice. And I think pain can be a good fuel. And in my personal life, I went through so much pain that I would prefer never to have gone through them. You know, because there's no pleasure through it. But at least what I've tried to do is, every time I went through pain, is use that energy to do something at the root cause of why I got to that painful situation.
To understand the reason why it happened.
Exactly. And try to make some changes based on that. Now, I'm not betting on, I'm solving all my problems, but at least from a bad situation, which is painful, I try to get the best out of it. You know what I mean? Which is, at least, okay, let's use that energy to go to the deeper understanding of why I got there.
So what I get from right now, you said pain, you cannot escape pain, but even if you wanted to escape pain, do not escape pain, because pain, and if you are strong enough to understand the root of the reason why it happened, maybe then you can change, and the next process you will do better. Maybe yes, maybe not, but at least you had the possibility to find or to looking for the reason.
The root cause. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, my brother.
Take care, brother. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.